A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
We have Senator Roger Marshall. He is, of course, with the Homeland Security Committee. And Senator, wow, you were grilling the acting Secret Service chief today. I think everybody in the room was. What answers did you get? And what answers are still outstanding? It seemed like there were still a lot of blanks there.
You'll read it. Well, fight, fight, fight. You know, that's the theme up here. And I've got a job to do, too. I think the backdrop to this is that Americans do not trust the FBI and they have no faith in the Secret Service. And unfortunately, the Secret Service acting director did nothing to relieve our concerns or our fears. And we could talk about a lot of issues, but it was just it. They didn't have questions. We wanted to know, why did you not put this building where the assassin attempt shot was made within the perimeter? It was 125 yards. Why was it not in the perimeter? There were 10 buildings within 500 yards. Why weren't those secured? Who's responsible for setting up walkie-talkies, little radios? There wasn't good radio communication between it. Who decided not to fly a drone? Who decides not to give President Trump more protection? So the problem was, even here we are 17 days later, and either they don't know the answers or they refuse to tell us the answers.
You know, I have a question.
Greg Eaton.
Greg Eaton, GOP chairman of Brooklyn for 10 years.
Senator, it's an absolute failure. If the Secret Service can't protect a former president and current presidential candidate from injuries from a 20-year-old novice, how are they going to defend and protect anybody from a sophisticated group of people that want to assassinate him?
Well, you're on to something, and this is when I go back home, or when I go back home, all people want to do is talk about this. We all recognize there was a systemic failure here, and people say, to your point, if they can't protect President Trump, am I safe? Is my family safe? And then you kind of back up and think about what's gone under this Biden-Harris administration. They opened the border up, let 11 million people across the border. We have kids dying from fentanyl poisoning every day, hundreds of kids dying from fentanyl poisoning every day. And here's Kamala Harris, who believes in cashless bail, defunding the police. We see vandalism and graffiti going on here at the Capitol, and the police are just told, turn your head the other way. Don't look. Don't pay attention to this shoplifting. But here, this is the ultimate. There's the revered Secret Service and FBI, and we don't trust either one of them. They're incompetent. They have systemic failures. They have significant cultural problems within their organizations.
You know, Senator Marshall, you know, it was interesting. I was watching a lot of it, and I was surprised. They were also admitting they had cell issues. They had cell service issues that day. I'm thinking, like, is this like Abbott and Costello? I mean, there were a lot of, and then they were pointing the blame at local law enforcement, saying, oh, they were in charge of the roof. They didn't tell us this. Well, a lot of the local law enforcement just came out recently and said, well, we take direction from Secret Service. I mean, it's like, who's leading who?
Right. At the end of the day, one of the big breakdowns, as far as we know, there was not a meeting that morning with the Secret Service and local police. At least that's what local police is telling us, that meeting never occurred. And I asked the acting director, did that meeting happen? And he really wouldn't give me a straight answer. And I said, was there any documentation that meeting occurred? What was discussed? Where are the drawings? Don't you think that if you were in charge of protecting the president, and I don't know if there was 40 or 50,000 people there, isn't there a drawing that shows this is where the Secret Service snipers will be, and this is where we want the police, local police, to be? And I said, well, show us those documents, and they won't show them to us. So, like I said, significant systemic failures there, and that's why we need to bring in a crisis intervention team. I don't need to study this anymore to realize that they have a huge cultural problem within the Secret Service, and that's why I'm asking for the president to appoint a crisis intervention team. You know, I think of someone like a Mike Pompeo, and there's others that could do it, that would come in apolitical and fix this darn thing. Congress can't fix this. it's going to take some real leadership there to walk in there and turn that place upside down, let some people go and start over.
Were you surprised that they also said that these encrypted accounts have still not been gotten into? I mean, come on, this is the premier law enforcement in the world, but they can't get into some of these accounts that the kid was accessing?
Well, I can't speak to what they haven't got into, but I do think I can speak enough to say I think the motive is right there in front of us, that we have a young man that was probably had major depressive disorder. I bet he's schizophrenic. I don't think that he can delineate truth from fiction. I think he was fascinated with JFK and Lee Harvey Oswald, that this was a copycat crime. I would like to see some type of an FBI psychological evaluation of this kid and just tell me, is there anybody else involved with this, or is this a lone wolf? I think that's what Americans want to know. Was this a lone wolf? And I think that's where I would bet my money. But by hiding more and more of the facts from us, it leads us to all these conspiracy theories.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, one of the other things, too, we saw Senator Marshall, they were showing the roofs today. There was one moment where the acting director was showing, oh, here's the vantage point. When you see it, it's like clear as day. I mean, it really is. It's even more stunning that they missed it.
It didn't take a genius to figure out how close that other roof was and that someone could access it so easily and have a direct, view of the president.
Yeah, and they finally, told us the story of how this happened. Here's a young man. He probably has a backpack with the rifle. It's a collapsible stock on it. He jumps up on the air conditioner onto a building about 4 buildings away, and he scuttles across these 4 buildings to get to his final vantage point. Any type of a drone in the air would have seen that occurring, and I really don't quite understand exactly when they saw him, but at some point, obviously, people are yelling, shooter, 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 or something like that. But because there was no direct radio communication, somehow that never got to the Secret Service diaper in time.
Yeah, it's stunning. Judge Weinberg.
Good to talk to you again, Senator. Senator, how come this 20-year-old kid, has a drone and the Secret Service doesn't? You have to explain that to me.
Well, obviously, our Secret Service needs to answer the question. There is no good explanation. There's absolutely no explanation for it, and I think it is one more example of the systemic failures, and this is one of many.
Yeah, what are your suggestions after hearing this? President Trump, who talked with our own Sid Rosenberg today, it sounds like he's still full steam ahead on these rallies, including outdoor rallies. Is there anything that you think needs to change? Because even the one in Nashville the other day, they delayed him getting on the stage. And this one, they didn't delay him getting on the stage?
Yeah, I think there's lots of things we need to be working upon. First of all, the Secret Service needs to be involved in choosing the locations. And to be frank, there's just going to be some locations they cannot secure. Next, they need to give President Trump more resources, just not people, but it'll probably be more other systems as well. What if there was a drone attack? How could we do some type of the reverse radio wave technology, which I don't understand, that would shut down a drone in the air, those types of things. But beyond that, I referenced earlier that we need a crisis intervention team to come in and take over the Secret Service. And then I think from the investigation standpoint, we need to take it out of the hands of Congress and appoint a 9/11 style of commission that's non-political. Look, there's professionals out there that understand security much better than any member of Congress does. We need 4 or 5 of those to dig into this, spend 10 or 12 hours a day, interview everybody, and then come back and report to some congressional committees what they find. But again, we don't have to wait 2 years for that commission to be finished. We need action yesterday to make sure that President Trump and RFK Jr., that others are safe as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Senator Roger Marshall, thank you so much. Such an important hearing and still so many unanswered questions. But you guys did a great job trying to get to the bottom of it.
Thanks for having me on.